So let's continue our discussion. In order to understand the chemistry of grahas, in order to comprehend how they are operating, why they are behaving in such a manner in this sign, with this planet, and in this house, we have to understand the interrelationship between the grahas. Just as we humans have different kinds of relationship with different people, we have variety of relationships with different people. In the same manner, the grahas also have such kind of relationships. For better understanding, treat the friendship and enmity of planets just as we human have in our real lives. I have put in an example as if there are three people, Mr. A, Mr. B, and Mr. C. So, what is the chemistry? Mr. A considers B as friend, but Mr. B considers Mr. A as neutral, neither friend nor enemy. Now, Mr. A treats C as enemy, but Mr. C treats Mr. A as a friend. This can be possible in real life. However, it is true in Jyotish with respect to Mercury. Mercury is a planet who treats Sun, Surya Dev, as his friend, but Sun treats Mercury, who is a prince, as neutral. Now, this Mercury hates Moon and has an inimical attitude towards Moon, but Moon loves Mercury. That is the relationship among them. So we should understand these intricacies and then we will be able to bring out good results from the charts. Normally we have two groups. One group is called Sura group and another group is called Asura group. Surya Dev, Chandrama, Moon, Mars and Jupiter are in Sura group, and Shukracharya, Venus, Shani Maharaj, Mercury, Rahu and Ketu are in the Asura group. Normally grahas of one group are friends or neutral. So now we begin the derivation of natural friendship of grahas, that is explained in Brihad Parashara. Rules for evaluating the friend and enemy. For any graha, the lord of the signs, second, fourth, fifth, ninth, 12th, from the Mool Trikon sign of a graha are friends of the graha. Also, the lord of exaltation sign of a graha is also a friend. So these are the principles given, and we will utilize these principles to derive the natural friendship and enmity of the grahas. Rest all are enemies, that is, third, sixth, seventh, 10th, 11th lords of the sign from the Mool Trikon sign of the graha are its enemies. So we have to begin a counting from the Mool Trikon sign of the graha, whichever graha is under consideration, and from that house we have to count. These houses are friends, plus the lord of the sign of exaltation is also a friend, rest all are enemies. Then we take the cumulative account of the two kind of relationships for the planets owning two signs and find the final answer to have natural friendship enmity, that is called Naisargik Maitri. Naisargik Maitri or Shatruta. So we move on. So here we are deriving the natural friendship of Suryadev, sun god. And I have listed all the 12 signs from Aries to Pisces here, and their respective lords are mentioned here. So when we know that Sun has Mool Trikona in Leo, so we have to begin the calculation from Leo. We have to count the signs from Leo. Color of the Mool Trikona sign. So this is Surya Dev's Mool Trikona sign and it is depicted with this color. The green color shows sign is a friend and the red color shows the sign is an enemy. And for our reference, these houses are here. So we begin the counting from Surya Dev. So second, fourth, fifth, eighth, ninth, and 12th. So all these houses from the Mool Trikona sign, all these signs from the Mool Trikona signs, all the lord of these signs are friends of Surya Dev, and rest all are enemies. So we begin the final calculation for every planet, and when we have plus one score, he is a friend. When we have zero score, he is neutral. When we have negative score, minus two score, then he is an enemy. So, because many planets they rule two signs. So, finally, what is their contribution? We have to see that. So, we see the situation of Moon, and Leo is there. So, Moon is ruling Cancer, and it is the 12th sign, and we should consider him as his friend, the lord of the 12th sign. Next planet is Mars, and Mars is here, and Mars is here. Both way, Mars is a friend. So Mars has got two plus ones, and he is a friend. Mercury, now we see the situation of Mercury. Mercury has one green, and Mercury has one red point. So plus one minus one becomes neutral. We see for Venus, Venus has one red, and Venus has second red as well. So Venus gets minus 2, and he is an enemy. We see the situation for Jupiter, and Jupiter is ruling both ways. Jupiter is a friend from Leo, this is Sagittarius, and this is Pisces. So plus one, he's a friend. And we take the situation of Saturn. Saturn both ways is marked in red. So minus 2, minus 1, he is an enemy. We will do the similar exercise for Chandrama and see the friendship and enmity relationships of the planet. So here we have to begin the entire calculation from the sign Taurus, because Taurus is the Mool Trikona sign of Moon. From Taurus, the second, the fourth, the fifth, the eighth, the ninth, and the 12th house, along with the sign of its exaltation, are friends. Rest all are enemies. And we are using same colors. Friends are marked with plus one, enemies are marked with minus one, and they are red in color. Friends are in green color. So we see for different planets. First of all, we see for Sun, and Sun is green. So we get plus one. Mars, for Mars, we see plus one, and another thing we see for Mars is minus one. So Mars becomes a neutral. For Mercury, we see the situation. Mercury has got green color and green color. So plus one and plus one. So Mercury is a friend of Moon. We see the situation of Venus. Venus has plus one in Taurus because it is the sign of exaltation of the moon. And secondly, the Venus has got red color. So plus one, minus one, Venus becomes neutral. Then we see the situation of Jupiter. From one point, from one aspect, Jupiter is a friend. From other aspect, Jupiter is an enemy according to this calculation. And the final result is neutral. So Saturn has got one green and one red. So plus one, minus one, neutral. Moon has got only two friends, Suryadev and Mercury. Rest all are neutral to Moon. Moon considers all other planets as neutral. He does not have enmity with anybody. So when we do the similar exercise for all the planets, we reach to this beautiful table, and we should remember this table by heart. So here are all the seven planets and their friends, neutrals, and enemies. So Sun, Suryadev considers Moon, Mars, and Jupiter as his Friends, Mercury is neutral and Saturn and Venus are the enemies of Sun. What about Saturn and Venus? Saturn considers Sun as his enemy and Venus also considers Sun as enemy. So it is a two-way enmity relationship between three of them. One side Sun and one side Saturn and Venus. And we see Venus considers Saturn as his friend and Saturn considers Venus as his friend. So in a chart, if Sun is not very strong and Saturn and Venus are closely conjoined together and they are not combust, in that situation, they can give a very harsh treatment to this sun, and the agendas of the sun will suffer. Whatever the lordship, the placement, and other things sun has to do, whatever agendas sun has in the Kundli, that agenda will suffer in this situation. When Saturn and Venus are closely conjoined, they are in strength, they are not combust, and sun is not very strong in the sign. So at that time, they can give a very hard time to the sun because both of these planets are both ways friends. Venus considers Saturn as a friend and Saturn considers Venus as a friend, and both planets are enemies of sun, and we have seen it other way around as well. So we move on to moon, and moon considers sun and Mercury as his friend, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, all other planets as neutral. Moon we have seen in the Naisargik Karak Tattva. Moon has the caring and nurturing nature. He is the cosmic mother as well. So he has no enmity with anybody. We move on to the Mars, Angarak Mars. He considers Sun, Moon, and Jupiter as his friends. He is neutral with Venus and Saturn, but Mars hates Mercury. So, policeman does not like the kid, you know, who is jumping around and breaking too many laws. What about Mercury and Mars? Mercury considers Mars as neutral, not as his enemy, but Mercury considers Moon as his enemy. So we move on to Mercury. Mercury has Sun and Venus as his friends, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn as neutral, and Moon is the enemy. And we discussed the situation that Moon considers Mercury as his friend, but Mercury considers Moon as his enemy. What a pity. Because Mercury is the child of Moon, and Moon hates his biological father. Jupiter loves Sun, Moon, and Mars. He is neutral with Saturn, and Jupiter does not like Venus, and Jupiter does not like Mercury. But in Vedic system, finally Devguru Brahaspati accepts Mercury as his child because it was not his fault. But in our tables, the relationship of Jupiter and Mercury is enmity. Mercury does not consider Jupiter as his enemy, but Jupiter considers Mercury and Venus, both of these planets, as enemy. On the contrary side, Venus does not consider Jupiter as an enemy at all. He is a neutral planet. Venus considers Mercury and Saturn as his friends, Mars and Jupiter as neutral, and Sun and Moon are his enemies. And Saturn, Shani Maharaj, considers Sun, Moon, and Mars as his enemies. Jupiter is neutral. Saturn is neutral with Jupiter, and Jupiter is neutral with Saturn. So Shani Maharaj and Devguru Brahaspati, both ways they are neutral. Shani Maharaj finds Mercury and Venus as his friends, and rest all we have discussed. So, in this table, particularly, we should remember all these things that Saturn and Jupiter are neutral both ways. So, their relationship is like that. Together, when they are in a Kundli, they form a very beautiful yoga called Brahma Yoga, and it is a yoga for great knowledge, very in-depth knowledge, and very wide knowledge regarding something. Mars and Jupiter hate Mercury, but Mercury is neutral to both Mars and Jupiter. So this is another aspect that we should remember, that Mars and Jupiter, Mars, the policeman Mars and the Devguru Brahaspati, he doesn't, both of them don't like Mercury, but Mercury finds both of them as neutrals. Okay. Mercury is very flexible and he learns from the planets strongly influencing him. If planets are conjoined, then Mercury gets influenced very, very fast. And in Sanskrit, we call it Sahacharya, who is going around or who is placed along with Mercury, Sahacharya, who is moving around with him. In what kind of circles Mercury is moving around. Like our own kid, we should be very careful about the circle of our kid, because if they're in a bad company they are doing bad things. So the company makes a lot of difference, and that's what is represented via Mercury. Mercury is a child in all of us, and whoever is placed along with Mercury, whoever is influencing Mercury a lot, that planet teaches Mercury many things depending upon his strength and his Naisargik Karaka. So Mercury learns from people he is around with. If Mercury is with Sun, Suryadev's son, whom he considers as his friend, and if Mercury is not combust, then it forms a very beautiful yoga called Buddhaditya Yoga, also called Nipuna Yoga. The person is a very fast learner and he is very intelligent. Why so? Because sun is a king in the hierarchy. The agenda of the sun is to keep focus from the top view on all the things or most of the things. So the agenda of the sun always has top important things. And in this situation, Mercury has an opportunity to learn directly from the king, which he aspires to become in future, because Mercury is a prince. So he learns all important, top important things very quickly, and that is why they are nipun. They are very fast learners and they are very capable individuals. But the condition is Mercury should not be combust. Otherwise, the lordship of Mercury and the character of Mercury that suffers. Mars, Venus are neutral both ways and not enemies. Another misconception I have seen sometimes uh, is that people consider Mars and Venus as enemies. No, they are not enemies, they are just neutral to each other. They don't love each other, but they don't hate each other as well. Saturn hates Mars, but Mars is neutral to Saturn. Whenever together they fight, and normally Mars wins. So we should keep this thing in mind, that Saturn is a very slow planet and Mars is a very quick planet. He is an army person. He should be able to make quick moves in order to fight a war with enemy. So they belong to different philosophies altogether. Saturn is a common man, Mars is a army or a police person or head. So whenever they are together, there is a fight and Mars beats Saturn very badly. And we can see how police thrashes common man when there is some agitation, even pro-democratic agitations nowadays. So for Rahu and Ketu, they take Sun and Moon as enemy, because the origin of Rahu and Ketu is via Swarabhanu, who was an Asura, and Sun and Moon are Suras. So we very well understand this, that Rahu and Ketu, they find Sun and Moon as enemies. What we have seen just now is a Naisargik friendship or natural friendship. We also have another kind of friendship, and that is called temporary friendship or tatkalik friendship. It is based on the situation or placement of the planets from each other. The planets placed in second house, third house, fourth house, and 12th house, 11th house, 10th house, from the placement of the planet, are his temporary friends. So for example, if a planet is placed in the fourth house, then all the planets who are placed in fifth house, sixth house, seventh house, and third house, second house, and Lagna from Lagna are his temporary friends. So once we see this relationship of Naisargik Maitri and Tatkalik Maitri, then we come to the final friendship situation of a planet and we call it compound friendship or Panchdha Maitri in Sanskrit. So it is a combination of Naisargik Maitri, that natural friendship we discussed for various planets, and the Tatkalik Maitri utilizing this rule. After considering the two kinds of friendships, natural and temporary, we get the cumulative result called compound friendship, Panchdha Maitri, and it is to be used for better results, not just natural Naisargik Maitri, not just natural friendship, Naisargik Maitri. So the grading parameters are friend is +1, neutral is 0, and enemy is -1. Here we can see the Tatkalik situations, and here we can see the Naisargik situations. So all possible things have been considered here, and final results are written. So friend +1 and friend +1 gives +2, and if a if a planet is in friendly sign and another planet is placed in three house right side, three house left side, then that planet is Adhimitra for the planet. If one way, Tatkalik way, we have friends, and in Naisargik, if they are neutral, then they still are friends, Mitra. One way, Tatkalik relationship, one way they are friends, and in Naisargik relationship, they are enemies. So in this situation, the net result is a neutral planet. Mercury, Mars, um, Sun is placed in the sign of Saturn, and Sun and Saturn are in third and 11th house from each other. So in this situation, Sun is neutral. Sun will behave as neutral. From Tatkalik, if we find enemy, and from Naisargik we find neutral, then it is enemy situation. From Tatkalik, if we find enemy situation and Naisargically also it is an enemy situation, then it becomes a great enemy, Adhishatru. So the names are Adhimitra when both ways somebody is friend, Tatkalik friendship and Naisargic friendship. When one way it's favorable, it's friend, Mitra. When it's favorable and unfavorable at the same time, then it's neutral, Sama. And when it is negative in one way and neutral in another way, so it becomes Shatru. When it becomes negative both ways, that they are enemies through Tatkalik relationship, and naturally they are enemies as well, and that Graha becomes Adhishatru. That planet behaves as if he is sitting in the Adhishatru Rashi. So that's it. I have tabulated all this information in this slide. So possible states of planet in a sign when we use Panchida Maitri, Naisargik Maitri and Tatkalik Maitri. We have exaltation and corresponding representation. Then we have Mool Trikona, own sign, great friend, Adhimitra, friend, Mitra, neutral, Sama, enemy, Shatru, great enemy, Adhishatru, and debilitated nature. So, extremities are debilitation, depressed and a sad state, and exaltation, thrilled, happy, excited state. And the stages in between are represented. So, we have maximum strength here and minimum strength here of a planet. Bad results are given by this kind of state, and normally good results are given by this kind of state. But we have all kinds of mix and match in the chart, so that's why there are a lot of other possible strength. So that's why there are other possibilities as well. Other kind of strength is also there. All these intermediate states will show not exaltation and non debilitation, states, different states. Own sign is still considered very, very good. So in Jyotish, always give weightage and importance like this. We give positive results because of some combination, some placement, some logic, and there will be some negative results because of some other placements, other combination, and other circumstances in the chart. So if we have to judiciously read a chart, then we should be making out two tables. One is going for favor, another one is not going in the favor. Finally, we should see and wait which side is more powerful and what kind of final results we can anticipate. So in Jyotish, always give weightage and importance like this: positive, negative, and neutral aspects. Then see the balance or cumulative effects, and finally pronounce the results considering all things. If there are some bad combinations, for example, yogas, placements, etc., etc., then there are some good combinations to counter and vice versa as well. What I mean by this point is if we see some negative or bad things in a chart, so we should try to find out the positive or the counter aspects of that part, which can soulage or give some hope to this person. Apart from the relationships we have discussed, there are some other kinds of relationship discussed by Shri Venkatesh Sharma, Pachakadi Sambandha. We will discuss them later. And also in Gemini Sutra, translation of Gemini Sutra, we also find one special table which naturally is based on what we have seen, but it has got some extra parameters, and that table is used for evaluating the finances, how much planets wants to give and how much somebody will receive finally, and what kind of games, the quantum of games, the quality and quantity of the games, etc., etc. So various other kinds of relationships are also there, but in Vedic astrology, this is the primary definition of the relationships. So this part of the lecture series focused on comprehensive friendship and enmity of the planet is culminating here. And if you have any questions or doubts, you are most welcome to ask them in the group, or you can write to me and contact me. Thank you very much for watching this video lesson.